Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Where Work Meets Life. I'm Dr. Laura, and I'm delighted to be here with you today to talk about difficult versus toxic bosses. What's the difference, and why does it matter? So, I've been talking a lot about toxic bosses lately. I think it's a really important topic. Why do I think that? I think it because I've seen the damage done by toxic bosses to many of my clients, to my research participants in the research that I do through the University of Calgary about the behaviors and impacts of toxic leaders. And I just see this as a widespread issue. As I read the studies on this and the research, it's a worldwide issue. And I think it's not getting better. I think it's continuing to cause a lot of harm in organizations and in people's lives. So I wanted to understand this better. And I'm writing a book on this very topic of toxic bosses so that I can help people better identify, navigate, exit, and recover from them. So today's topic in particular is about difficult versus toxic, because this is a key differentiator when it comes to understanding what type of boss you or a colleague or a loved one may be working for. Well, why does this matter? It matters because a difficult boss compared to a toxic boss is actually manageable. You can manage through it, you can learn to navigate them, and you can end up staying and continuing to thrive in your career if your boss is merely difficult. But if they're toxic, it is not going to be sustainable. Toxic bosses are brutally bad for your mental health, your physical health, and your career progression. So I'm going to talk first about a difficult boss and what that means. And having worked with a lot of leaders over my 25-year career and seeing a lot of managers struggle to become good leaders and seeing and hearing from people on the other side of difficult leaders, I definitely know that there are a lot of difficult bosses out there. And we know from the research that the number one reason people leave their job is because of their boss. And in some cases, it's because of a difficult boss. And in other cases, they are truly toxic. So if you have a difficult boss, they are frustrating to work with. There's no doubt about it. But they're not harmful to your mental and physical health. Whereas a toxic boss, in comparison, is damaging to your overall health. Your stress levels continue to grow, you're more likely to burn out, and you're more likely to have physical health impacts as a result, including high blood pressure, ulcers, other diseases and illnesses, back pain, jaw tension, whatever it is, it's impacting you physically, mentally, or both. Difficult bosses don't do so as much. Difficult bosses, you tend to be annoyed and frustrated, but it's not dragging you down physically and mentally. Another descriptor of a difficult boss is that they can be disorganized, inefficient, but you can still perform your job effectively. Their disorganization is almost like a cloud of chaos or just being disorganized is the best way to put it. And I think we've all been there and worked for bosses like this, or maybe we ourselves are like this. We mean well. We don't mean harm, but we just have problems with the details and the planning and the keeping things in order. And we might be forgetful, but we don't do it from a negative place. A toxic boss, in comparison, they are much more intentional. Their behaviors are truly harmful and they have the intention to make your life more difficult. They deliberately are making your life more difficult. So that's the difference. And with a difficult boss, you can learn how to navigate and manage and help work around their disorganization. A shout out to my friend Mary Abeje, who was on the podcast, and we did an episode about her book, Managing Up, because she talks a lot about the different ways we can manage difficult bosses. And I think she does a really good job of that because, again, we can learn to work around the different types of difficult bosses, and we can learn to navigate them so we can still progress and shine in our career. And we may even like them. I mean, I myself have worked in the past with difficult bosses many, many years ago. And I learned that you're frustrating to work with, but I still like you as a person. And that's how you may feel about a difficult boss. With a toxic boss, you do not like them. You don't like them as a person, nor as a boss, and you cannot wait to get away from them, but you may be stuck and feel stuck with them. Another attribute of a difficult boss is they are poor communicators. So they may be, hit and miss with what they're sharing. Again, they might be forgetful. They may be disorganized, but they're not the greatest at communicating in a clear and concise manner. Maybe they're really detailed at explaining things, or they don't get to the point, and you find that frustrating, but they mean well. A toxic boss, on the other hand, communicates in a dishonest and manipulative way. You simply can't trust them. What comes out of their mouth or what comes out in writing is not true, or it's meant to manipulate or cause harm. Again, it's the intention to cause harm. Another attribute of a difficult boss is they can be absent-minded. I mentioned that earlier, forgetful. They can cause inefficiencies, but they're not deliberately withholding information as a toxic boss would. So toxic bosses are known to hoard information, to not share information, or to share information with certain people and maybe not others. Maybe you were left out of an important communication, and that is deliberate. They're very good at causing divisions on teams and causing distrust between people. What else? Well, a difficult boss may forget to show you appreciation at times. And I know we all really develop and grow and thrive with appreciation, although it may look different ways for different people. Appreciation matters to a lot of us. And a difficult boss can forget this. They can forget to show the appreciation. Again, it's not coming from a place of harm, and they will give you credit. So they won't steal credit from you and pass off something as their work when it was really yours. But they may forget to give you the credit publicly, for example. A toxic boss, on the other hand, they do not show the appreciation, and they'll take full credit behind your back. So I heard that in my research about toxic bosses, that they very much do take the credit for others' work. And that is incredibly painful and damaging to trust and to the relationship, and frankly, to your career progression. Another attribute of a difficult boss is they sometimes micromanage. So they get into the weeds. They may have a bit of perfectionistic tendencies. It can be annoying, but you can still get your work done. So you just know that maybe they're the type that flies in and micromanages for a while, then they're off onto the next thing, and it's annoying when they do. And they need to double check everything. They're tedious. They're detail oriented, and you can learn to live with it. You can learn to work around it. You can learn to over communicate and share with them and gradually develop their trust. Is it annoying? Sure, it's absolutely annoying. Might you want to work for this person the rest of your career? Probably not. But do you need to get out ASAP? No, not necessarily. You can learn to manage and work around this. And again, that book, Managing Up, does a really good job at getting at how. On the other hand, a toxic boss has an excessive need to control, and you'll find extreme micromanagers in the toxic boss personas. So extreme micromanagers will absolutely thwart your productivity. They'll get in the way of your motivation and your ability to get work done, because the level of control and micromanagement is suffocating. So again, it's much more extreme than it is with a difficult boss. And then the difficult boss will slow you down at times, but it's usually unintentional. Again, they might forget to tell you something or forget to delegate something to you on time or give you something. Again, that key word of forgetting, of being disorganized, of being inefficient, but not from a place of hurting you, just from a place of their own cloud of chaos. But on the other hand, a toxic boss deliberately impacts your work. They get in the way of your ability to perform. And sometimes it's really about proving that you can't perform so that they can let go of you. And they gradually erode your performance by bringing you down, by getting in your way, by slowing you down, by not giving you the resources that you need, or the mentorship, or the support, or whatever you need from them. You're not getting it. So you're not able to do your job well. Again, it's intentional. It's on purpose, as compared to the difficult boss who may cause some of these slowdowns, but it's not to get in your way. It's just a result of how they are as a difficult or subpar leader. And the biggest difference really is that you can find ways to manage a difficult boss, and you cannot do so with a toxic boss. A toxic boss is really damaging to your engagement, your productivity, and your well being. And people who work for toxic bosses and have since left them, they really have found the toxic boss increased their stress. They created a fear-based culture. They caused low morale at work. And they led to a lot of people leaving. So you see high levels of turnover under a toxic boss. And toxic bosses get in the way of your performance. Sometimes that takes a while, because what I've heard is some people end up overperforming for a toxic boss because they just want to impress this person. Surely I can do well for this person. I've done well for other leaders in my career. Why can't I impress this person? So what they do is they double down and triple down on their effort. But alas, it's impossible to impress that person because they've already pegged you in a certain way, or they're threatened by you, or they just want to get you out the door. And again, it's usually because you're perceived as a threat. Maybe you're perceived as being more intelligent than them, more experienced than them. Maybe they know that other people like you on the team more than those people like them as the leader. So whatever reason it is, they typically are getting in the way of your career performance, your career growth, and they are causing you harm to your performance, but also harm to your well-being, your stress, anxiety, your physical health, your sleep. And this gets worse over time. Typically, it does not get better with a toxic boss. And that's why I say it's important to start planning your exit with a toxic boss. And you may feel that you're stuck there, right? You have a good salary, you have a pension, you have stocks, you have benefits. Like, how the heck are you going to leave? But there may be ways to maneuver and move within the organization. There may be other opportunities you haven't even thought of that are healthier workplaces out there. And until you start making an intentional plan, it's going to be difficult to even imagine that. So I encourage you, if you or a loved one are suffering under a toxic boss, that you get the help that you need, that you get support, that you talk to trusted supports in your life. Maybe you talk to a career psychologist. That's what we do in my firm in Canada Career Counseling. We help a lot of people navigate this through an objective sounding board. You can also learn a lot by following my podcast, because I'm putting out lots of content on this, and my blog at drlaura.live, where I write about toxic bosses and organizations in general and career health and well-being. And beyond that, I hope that you continue following me, because my book is coming out on this topic. The goal is to get it out in 2025 and to really help as many people across the world as I can with navigating toxic versus difficult bosses. And difficult bosses are no small feat. I'm not undermining the pain and difficulty they cause, but like I say, it's more manageable and it is possible to stay, but with a toxic boss, going tends to be the best answer. So I hope this was useful. I hope that you are doing well, and please reach out to me. I love when you share my episodes, when you rate them and review them, and that helps me being able to continue spreading the word, spreading important evidence-based ideas to all of you in my global network, and stay well. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Where Work Meets Life. If you found this content valuable, please rate and review the episode and share with others who may benefit. Visit me on my website at drlaura.live and sign up for my monthly e-newsletter full of tips and resources. I'm also a passionate keynote speaker and would be delighted to speak with you on your speaking needs. Stay well.